It has now been over 2 years since Arma Reforger first graced our screens with server disconnections and hard crashes, and since then, we've had some major improvements. Over these 2 years, Bohemia Interactive delivered anti-tank mines, a new island, weapon deployment and armor vests, an Ace-Light medical system, helicopters, and a fully featured supply system, just to name a few. Then, with the 1.0 release back in November, the game entered a golden age of stability, which helped to reveal just how complex and dynamic the battlefield can be with conflict matches that regularly last between 3 to 6 hours. Guides were made, videos were watched, leagues were formed, and we even entered a short phase of the typical hyped-up YouTube content creator coming by to tell us what we already knew, that Reforger was an awesome game, thanks in no small part to the hard-working developers and small but growing modding community. Which brings us to today. Bohemia Interactive just released its second major update of the year with patch 1.2 and crosses off some significant features from the roadmap, with some extra goodies that were never even promised. So if you've been waiting for some classic Arma features to make their way into the game before jumping in, then now may just be the perfect time, because a new era for Arma Reforger has just begun.
Você quase dobrou isso aí.
Beautiful, beautiful. I got something special for you. He's coming after us.
Pause. You may be wondering if these suppression effects are in the new update, but unfortunately they aren't. I'll explain in a second, but first, if I had a sponsor for this video, say a server provider or something, this is probably where I tell you about them. But since I don't, let me tell you about my Season Secure game mode, which combines conflict with capture and hold in a linear layout with focused objectives, suppression, first-person view for infantry, and many other additions. Join my community Discord for more info. Link is in the description. And if you'd like to add suppression to your own server, check out the LM suppression mod on the workshop. One of the standout features of the 1.2 update is AI commanding. Originally, we were told we'd get basic commands like move, defend, get in and out of vehicles, search and destroy, follow and halt. However, they also added suppress and heal. These commands significantly improve how you interact with and utilize AI squad mates, adding a new layer of tactical depth to your operations. But that's not all. AI driving has also been introduced, allowing your AI squad mates to take the wheel, which is, know what I mean? This means you can now order AI to drive vehicles, which is a game changer for solo logi runners and combat operations. Imagine sending AI-controlled trucks to resupply your front lines, or having them mount up in armored vehicles to provide mobile protection for your squad. This addition, on its own, can completely change the dynamics of conflict in ways that we don't even know yet. Now, with that said, I do have to admit that my testing of AI commanding hasn't really gone so well. My AI seem to disregard orders, drive in ridiculous ways as if they don't know about obstacles, and when I die, they're no longer part of my team, meaning there's just a band of rogue AI dudes out there somewhere taking up precious budget. I personally feel like this feature needed a bit more time in the oven before making its debut, but I have no doubt that Bohemia will continue to improve them and make things better. Another exciting addition in the 1.2 update is helicopter defensive weapons. This new feature allows both players and AI to take positions on mounted machine guns of armed helicopters, adding a whole new level of tactical depth and danger to aerial operations. Before this update, the sound of a helicopter coming up to your position was just background noise that you didn't really have to worry about. But now, these helicopters can provide devastating fire from the sky, turning them into formidable assets for both assault and defense. There's also a variety of new clothing and gear options to choose from now, allowing us to further customize our characters. Among these additions are our gloves, which have now been integrated into the character loadout system. While they might seem like a small detail, gloves add a cool aesthetic that completes the tactical look of your soldier. The US faction finally gets some love with more uniform options too, broadening the choice for players who want to tailor their appearance to specific roles or scenarios. New uniform options include an all-olive ensemble with matching pants and shirt, perfect for blending into forested environments or just achieving that classic military look. There's also an IIFS large combat backpack and a survival vest for pilots. One of the most exciting additions of the 1.2 update is the introduction of explosive charges. Both the Soviet and US factions now have access to demolition blocks that can be attached to almost any surface and armed with either a time delay fuse or a remote trigger. As you can imagine, these charges open up a myriad of strategic possibilities on the battlefield. Players have already found innovative ways to use them, such as sneaking into bases to plant charges while waiting for troops to be loaded into transport trucks. Another clever tactic is attaching explosives to vehicles and then rolling them downhill, or having one of your AI squad mates drive into an enemy base while you set off the charge. Additionally, the remote trigger feature allows for even more coordinated attacks, as the trigger can be handed off to another player, enabling one person to set the charges on the battlefield while others detonate them at an opportune time. Another feature in 1.2 is the introduction of bayonets for all factions. This allows you to attach a bayonet to your rifle, enhancing your capabilities in close quarters combat. Bayonets can kill in just 1 or 2 stabs, providing a quick and effective way to neutralize enemies when ammunition is scarce. Also, in situations where you need to remain undetected, bayonets offer a way to silently dispatch unsuspecting or unconscious enemies without wasting precious ammo or alerting others with gunfire. If you're like Andre, getting your vehicle unflipped over in a ditch doesn't have to be the end of your journey anymore. The 1.2 update introduces a much desired feature that brings a new level of practicality and realism to the game because it just feels so intuitive to do. What am I talking about? Well, you can now apply a small amount of physics to a vehicle via push or pull interactions, allowing you to rock vehicles back and forth to gradually tip them back onto their wheels. Most vehicles will require the combined efforts of multiple players to successfully flip them over. However, there are instances where a vehicle can be flipped over by a single individual, depending on the force needed to tip it over the pivot point. Pushing vehicles also works hand in hand with other interactive features, such as opening and closing vehicle doors independently and releasing the handbrake. A non-military civilian faction has also been added to the game. This faction is filled with a variety of civilian clothing options, helping to make the islands of Everon and Arlen feel a little more lived in and believable. The addition of the civilian faction allows players and scenario creators to populate the world with non-combatants, adding depth and realism to every mission, as the presence of non-combatant characters can also add moral and tactical dilemmas, requiring you to differentiate between friend and foe. For over 2 years, players have been leaving servers as soon as nighttime came, due to the difficulty of seeing in the dark and the widespread use of gamma exploits to gain an advantage. However, with the 1.2 update, the introduction of underbarrel grenade launcher flares has transformed nighttime engagements in a big way. UGL flares provide a brilliant new way to illuminate the battlefield, making night operations more viable and enjoyable. The lighting they produce looks stunning thanks to Infusion's lighting engine. When a flare is launched, it casts this vivid atmospheric light across the terrain, turning the once dark battlefield into a sight to behold. By launching a flare towards enemy positions, you can illuminate their location while remaining concealed in the darkness yourself. Now, here's hoping they also add smoke grenades to the UGLs. One of the sneaky additions in the 1.2 update is the introduction of armor-piercing rounds for the M60 machine gun. Previously, the US faction's options for dealing with Soviet BTRs were limited to the 50 caliber machine guns and the M72 Law. This left them at a slight disadvantage, especially considering that the Soviet faction had access to armored personnel carriers and RPGs that could be reloaded this whole time. Armor-piercing rounds for the M60 change this dynamic and provide US infantry with a powerful new tool to counter enemy armor. These AP rounds enable the M60 to penetrate and damage armored vehicles up to 100 meters and can deliver serious damage to both the vehicle's components and its occupants. A significant change in the 1.2 update is the new requirement that players must have an armory at their base to spawn with a customized loadout. This adjustment addresses a common issue where players customize their kits with top-tier gear only to deplete a base's resources wherever they choose to spawn at. Previously, players could spawn with their custom loadouts regardless of the base's facilities, leading to a rapid consumption of supplies and putting undue strain on Logi runners who are trying to build up defenses. This often resulted in a significant portion of the base's resources being used up before the match had even properly started, hampering the overall strategic capabilities of the team. The new requirement for an armory enforces more careful loadout management. Bases that don't have an armory will no longer allow players to spawn with customized customized gear, effectively preserving the resources and encouraging players to be more strategic about where they deploy. Hopefully. Teams will need to prioritize constructing and maintaining armories if they wish to provide their players with customized loadouts, adding another layer of strategic planning to the game, one that seems likely to be too much to ask for on public servers, in my opinion. Also, a restricted loadout system that requires players to earn their kit by ranking up and completing tasks would be more ideal, but again, that's just my opinion. This update also marks a considerable shift in how players manage their spawn points on the battlefield. Previously, radio backpacks solely consumed tickets for spawning. Once the tickets were depleted, the radio had to be manually undeployed before another could be set down. This process was not only cumbersome, and still is, but also disrupted the flow of operations. With the new system, radio backpacks can be configured to consume supplies instead of tickets, providing a more sustainable approach to managing spawn locations. As long as supplies are available and being replenished, the radio can be deployed indefinitely. One of the key advantages of this system is the ability to deploy radio backpacks near supply caches. By positioning the radio close to a supply cache, it can draw resources directly from these caches, ensuring a continuous flow of reinforcements. So, never leave your base without a vehicle full of supplies. The 1.2 update brings a long-awaited fix to head tracking sensitivity in Arma Reforger. Prior to this update, users often found that tracking was overly sensitive and erratic, making it difficult to control and requiring you to drastically lower your sensitivity settings to achieve any semblance of normal operation. And this update fixes that. However, while the TrackIR sensitivity fix is a significant improvement, the community of me is still eagerly awaiting the implementation of Tobii eye tracking, a superior product if I do say so myself. Plus, you don't have to strap anything stupid to your wireless headset or wear a Fred Durst hat. When you play the 1.2 update for the first time, you might have noticed an improvement in the soundscape, from shooting indoors at various room sizes and bullet impacts on vehicles, to urban firefights and whistling projectiles. These improvements encompass various aspects of audio design, from environmental sounds to the punchiness of weapons and explosions. Each gunshot and explosion now pack a visceral punch, delivering a more satisfying and immersive auditory experience. Here's a before and after, which you'll want to listen to with a good pair of headphones. One of the most welcome changes in the 1.2 update is the adjustment to AI behavior in low light conditions. Previously, engaging AI combatants during nighttime was a notoriously frustrating experience. The AI had a supernatural ability to spot and shoot players with perfect accuracy, even in complete darkness. This unrealistically sharp vision detracted from the immersion and challenge of night operations, making them disproportionately difficult and unfair. But with this new update, the AI now accounts for the luminosity of your character, meaning their ability to detect and accurately shoot at you is significantly reduced when you're in darkness or shadow. If you've ever wanted to feel like James Bond, this is the update for you due to the overhaul of the vehicle ejection mechanics. Previously, ejecting from a moving vehicle in Arma Reforger was a simple and somewhat unrealistic process. Players would merely play an exit animation and be teleported to a standing position, regardless of the speed at which they were traveling. Now, ejecting from a moving vehicle causes your character to ragdoll and tumble on the ground, with potential consequences depending on the speed of the vehicle. If you eject at high speeds, the impact can cause damage, potentially rendering your character unconscious or even dead. And also some hilarity, because you can also be flung out of vehicles now.
What? Did I just fall out of the vehicle?
Another improvement is the enhancement to helicopter operations with the ability to transfer control from the pilot to the co-pilot. This feature addresses a need you didn't even know you had, which is a need for flexibility and redundancy in flight management, allowing co-pilots to take over flying duties should the pilot be injured, disconnected, or simply in need of a break. Just make sure you trust your co-pilot.
The cool thing about an admin is I can be anywhere I want all the time. Hey,
We're
stop,
gonna,
dude.
We're
Let's
gonna
go crash the
Whoa!
shop.
What? I didn't say you could fly.
May the strongest arm win. It's like arm pushing, you know. Take the controls, please take the controls. I don't want to fly this.
The 1.2 update also enhances the usability and convenience of the quick slot menu in Arma Reforger. This menu, which allows players to assign items to keyboard shortcuts numbered 1 through 0, now supports a wider range of items and even AI commands. So if you aren't keen on using the commanding menu, take heart knowing that you can assign them to a slot and use them there. And finally, prior to 1.2, players often encountered issues where their weapons would become obstructed and unusable when positioned too close to cover or walls. This could be frustrating and disruptive, especially during intense firefights. The new update introduces changes that significantly improve how weapon obstructions are handled, providing a more fluid and realistic experience. Instead of pushing the weapon away from the player's body when too close to an obstruction, the character now raises the weapon upwards like a true tactical Chad. This simple yet effective change allows you to maintain better control over your weapon while in tight spaces, enhancing your ability to respond to threats quickly and accurately. Now, even with all of that said, this update has tons more fixes and little improvements that you can discover for yourself. And if you're still here, I'd like to thank you for your attention and invite you to join my Discord community, the Band of Beardos, where we gather every week to play some Season Secure on my server. Link is in the description. This is Ironbeard, and I'll see you on the battlefield.